Right, so in this video we're looking at this thing, because we've got to get rid of it. We're looking at this thing, because we've got to get rid of that. We have a quick look at this thing. And we're also looking at that one. Anyway, hope you enjoy. Oh, I've been sick. It's taken me a week to get over this, bronchial type thing. So that's the reason these aren't finished at the moment. In the next video, I've got all the parts now. These will all get finished. So I hope you enjoy. This is not doing what I want it to. See that valve's still down there? And which one is it? That one is still down. So I'm gonna have to pull the head. I didn't want to, but it's all I can do really to do a good reliable repair anyhow. I don't even think I've got a socket that's going to fit in those head bolts. I might have to buy some tools. These head bolts are torque to yield, so you can't reuse them. But yep, no point in banging on about it. It's just a case of we've got to get the head off. Still going. I've never taken the head off one of these, so you probably don't need to take the dizzy out. I wanted it so it was easier to handle on this side, which is where the sticky valves are. The manifold you can just take off with 2 bolts down there, on the other side as well. But I wanted to get it sort of naked on that side. Taking all this stuff off. I'm just going to take the throttle cable and the fuel lines. So one of them's just got a clamp there, other one's got a bolt at the top of the fuel filter. There's an earth around the back, which is easy to miss. You'll reach around and touch it. Vacuum lines for map sensor and brake booster, just stuff like that, and all your other sort of your wiring loom and stuff. So the Fairlane's already thrown its first curve. No fault to the car. Had it parked there where the little Toyota is, Holden, and couldn't start it. So I thought I'd run out of fuel, so I went and bought fuel, and still didn't start. Fueled in a carby, kicked over. But I noticed the fuel return was weeping. So I thought to myself, well, it might have something to do with the gas. The car's locked, I can't show you. There's a little switch underneath there I knocked. And consequently, going up the servo and filling up fuel, or putting a bit of fuel in it, was pointless because it didn't need it. It was just my mistake. Anyway, one good thing came out of it. Oh, did get myself a new door. Rust free, of course. This is of an XT Falcon. And all the areas under here are spotless. All under there. It's all rusty on the Fairlane down that area there. So I'll paint this door. This goes on the left hand front. And that whole side needs to be painted anyway. So that's really, really good score. But getting on to what I was talking about before, I was pretty sure these were the same. And they're identical. Up to there. Here. And the all the pressings, everything are exactly the same. It's just that hose. I can fabricate that bracket. And just if I see one of these cheap, I'll grab it. But otherwise, I'll be making something up to use that, because I can make that up out of the ones I've got. There's a guy 3D printing those, but I'd sooner do a genuine one. But yeah, no, I thought it'd be similar, but I didn't know it'd be identical in every way. Have a look. All there is identical. So that's cool. So there's a joint in here. Either that or I just cut it off. One of the two. This air cleaner's been because of the gas. Which surprised me because it works. The Fairlane runs well on petrol, but the gas wiring is still there, but the mixer's gone. Take this back on. Check this out. When they've taken the mixer off. Big bolt in here, big bolt in there. You would think joining it would be, anyway. Maybe they removed it when they decided to get rid of the car. They could have something to do with it. I can't wait to pull this apart. I can't wait to get rid of all this crap. I can't stand messy, dodgy aftermarket wiring. That is coming out and going down the tip. A lot of things I like about this car. Fan will fit on the 302 with the clutch. I've got a couple of clutches for those anyway, some new ones as well. Radiator is 302 as well. Thankfully the coolant's clean. Maybe shroud. I would assume the shroud will fit. I have got a V8 one with the overflow bottle mounted, like the XT. I might even use that, I'm not sure. Power steering's in the right spots, a Sagan oil pump, which is good. One bloke recommended the Astra TS Astra electric power steering, which he did a great job. It's called Project XP. And he's got the original box, obviously, and he's got it exiting down through here, and on the inner guard, in there, he's got his electric power steering mounted. I did wonder how he changes the, or tops up the fluid, but I don't know. Yeah, this is great, this engine. It runs so well, it's a pity to take it out. It reminds me a little bit of the XW. So, we'll see. Starting a little bit of rust, surface rust, but really pretty good. I certainly wouldn't unzip that to do anything to it. And the A-pillars look good too. Corners of the bonnet, excellent. Up there, can you see? I don't know, this guy is, anyway, it's good. So I'm really happy with that. The booster's been recoded some point in the past. This is excellent. This is a really nice car. I paid a lot of money for it. Paid too much for it. But I think given the fact that it's pretty much rust-free, as far as I can see, I mean, there's going to be some in there somewhere. It's pretty good. I'll take those off and get that colour matched, because that's wrong, and that's bare metal. And this side, you can see he sanded it. I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to leave that alone, and I'll put the mouldings back on, because he's actually taken some of the paint off. It's had a closed door respray by the look of it. That doesn't matter. Touch it up, she'll be right. Get those bloody hubcaps off. ZD or ZC, I can't tell the difference, Neil told me. But it's a cool car. I'm really happy. I thought they had vertical strips in the lights, but it must be the ZJ. That's off the old Mercade, that plate, just to make it look a bit tidier. And even that doesn't close properly. It sits sort of proud on that side there because of the gas filler. And another guy pointed out, which was brilliant, the speaker spaces are because the tank's in there. But I'm not sure about rear headrests, if it's supposed to have them or not. I don't know. So we'll figure it out. Life's good. All right. Seeing my house looking terrible, time to cut this lump of rubbish up. Back door's stuffed, at least the skin is. It's got a trim on it. Hinges are stiff, but the door frame's pretty good. So I can't remember what the one Graham supplied's like, but I'll take the door off anyway. The boot lid started to take off. The boot lid's stuffed. It's spinning on the inside. The boot lid's had it. Even that's pretty stuffed as well. I might take the lock cylinder out. The thing that worries me though, the fuel tank, well, is secure from underneath, which is so dumb, it's not funny. And then we'll rust it in. There's no fuel in it. But it doesn't smell of fuel, but I'm worried about cutting around it. So I need to get that out. And I'll take the bumper, I'll take the rear quarters. Don't think I want that bit, but I'll just cut it off there. Or a bit further up. Could take the Bs, don't really want the Bs. Although, I don't know if ours has got, I'll just check if it's got that. It's the right shape, so I might just cut a section out of, like a nice section out of there. Well, that's a lead joint, and I can't bother tackling that today. I was going to try and start drilling rivets, or what do you call it, spot welds. Can't be bothered, I'm just going to cut it through here. Take the dash frame, and I don't know, whatever else tickles our fancy. But this door is stuck shut, so I'm just going to get something to undo that, or at least try and do it from the inside. Where is it? That thing. And we should be in business. Have a go at taking that bumper off. I cut the dash out. You can just see it rusted. The plenum is underneath. It's all gone under there. And I think mine is too. Mine's all stuffed as well. Hacked it up pretty bad. But don't care. I wanted it for that centre section, but I don't know how much of this I'll use. But it is actually very, very good. You can see the skin to the top of the plenum just there. You would normally drill them out. And I started, but I couldn't be bothered. So that can all be cleaned up, and I might get it hydroblasted, and I cut through the support there, which wasn't really clever, but it's a two-piece dash. You can see where the skins are joined there, and that's where that rubber pad goes over that. So it's all good. You know, it's just another part that I've got to choose from. I don't want to get too carried away with it, although I sort of am, because the cars aren't really worth much, and very easy to overcapitalise, which I probably already have. Bumper's actually quite reasonable. It's straight at there. Let's have a look. He's having a big wee. The boot filled up with water, and there's a little bung underneath the spare wheel bracket, just in under there. Whoops. To help it drain, because I want that dry when I start cutting it. I might take that floor. There's some bits on this car that are better than mine. It's going to be a very slow process, my AJ. I've got sort of more inclination to do the XA. I'm keen to get that and hook into it, and also that Fairlane. I've wanted a Fairlane for a while. I don't tell you what I want because people probably get sick of me banging on about it. But anyway, look, I'm going to stick this on dollies and wheel it back and bring the rest of the gang in. Look at my drive. I need to redo my driveway. See, it's just like a Volvo or anything else. You just pick up the shim and bucket arrangement and lift it out. There it is there. So you just change those shims at the top. Whoops. There. To adjust your valves, clearances. Right, so just got those stuck ones left. Beautiful. And you can see it's stuck all the way down. I'm holding the camera, so. And so with these out, with those out, I'm not worried about them slamming up now. I can sort of relax, but you can see how far down they are. It's actually got quite a high lift camshaft on it. Well, I mean, it looks it, do you know what I mean? It's not a sort of a roundy looking thing like you would expect. But anyway, I'll put these down and in the right order. I bought a special tool, M9 spline, which will just fall in there like that, and I'll just get it off with a breaker bar. Dirty. Right, pulled the head off. Looks very good. No problems in there. No problems with the head gasket either. I'll just have to clean it all up. So it's all looking really, really good. They can go in the bin. I've got a new one of those. It's got very, very, very little wear on it. This thing will go for another few $100,000, I would think. It's a Toyota. Casting an eye over this head, it looks really good. Your exhaust studs are all looking great. The coolant areas where the hoses go, no corrosion really. Down there as well. Really, really good condition. The area of question, I'll just put the camera on a tripod just a moment. Looking at this, you can see the valves that are staying open. We've got one here. That's the one I tried to grab. There's that mark there. I tried to grab it with a thing and pull it up. And we got this one here, and I tried there too. You can see that mark there. Got a soft hammer. That's really stuck. That might be a stuffed guide. They're really, really stuck. I thought they'd just tap in. I might use a piece of timber and just drive that home. And I don't know why it's like that. It's like it's got no lubrication. I don't know why. We better look a bit further into there. But I'm going to take all of them out and have a look. I've given up with the hardwood. I'm just using a brass drift. But there's something very wrong. I would say the guide's stuffed. I should probably just change the head over. The one that I've got, but that's still attached to a good engine. And I didn't want to separate it if I could. Right. Well, we're going to do a few things we're not supposed to do. Which is what we always do, particularly when the camera's off. I'm taking the valves out. And This tool is so good. And I'll show you what I'm doing. Now, out of these first five I've done, 2 have been free, the others haven't. Now, take the spring out. Is this free? Nope, that's stuck. This is yet another one that's stuck. And I'm finding that it's actually really good that I've done this. And the reason for it is because there's a lot of crap on the stems. And it's not normal operational stuff. Oh, I've got to break the fall. I haven't dropped any yet, which has been good. Now, there's rust up the stem. And it comes straight off with a blade. This has been started, stopped, and sat around for ages, and I think that's the reason for it. I thought originally it was lack of oil change, but there's no sludge in here. It's reasonably clean. So all I'm doing is getting a razor blade. I don't want to do it over the head because I'm cleaning it off, and it comes up mint underneath. And from there, I am using Scotch-Brite on a drill just to clean it up. I'm not even refacing the valves because they're fine. You're probably not meant to do this, but don't care. It's working well. Perfect. Alright, we'll stick it in here. Whoops. Get some clean Scotch-Brite and comes up so well. So we have a nice clean valve, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. There's a bit of carbon there. The next thing I'm doing is I need a 6mm ream, but I haven't got one. So I'm using a 6mm drill bit, which is bad. Don't do this. I'm going to whack it up the guide, but I'm just doing it by hand. I'm not putting it on a power tool. I can see where I'm going. And I'm just running it up and down with my hand to make sure it collects any garbage in there, because this valve is exactly 6mm. That valve stem. So a 6mm drill bit is going to collect any snot that's there. And then I'm going to pop the valve in, and it should move free as a bird with no lubricant. Perfect. So we'll dip it in oil, which I've got here. Pop the son of a gun in there. Sounds like a brand new one. So then we put it together. And that's all I'm doing. It's dodgy. It's kind of dodgy. It's not that dodgy. But, you know, you could be doing a full valve job and all this, but I'm not going to do that. And these valve springs are easy to overcome with your hands to put the tool on. And wind him up and put the retainers in, and you're out of there. Done. The only problem I'm having with retainers, putting them in, is that my tools are slightly magnetic. So, you know, there's all sorts of things. You can put grease in there and all this stuff. I'm not going to do that. Grease will hold them while you're, you know, trying to negotiate them, but I'd certainly just use a bit of patience, to be honest with you. And we stick them in, and that didn't go anywhere near it. See this? It's just me being me. We'll pop that in, and get in there. Oh, you son of a gun. There we go. That's sitting where it's meant to. Yep. We'll get the other side in. We're out of there. Brilliant. And we go to the next one. And where is the next one? The next one's over here. There it is. And we do it again. I haven't got my normal little stick for getting these out. So I'm just using a little child's magnet off an old game the kids had and doing it that way. And that's really dirty. That was the original stock one. Oh gosh. The only way to have done this was to pull the head, which I'm sort of glad, because I'd hate to figure that I've done something that I didn't need to do. Okay. Get yourself one of these spring compressors. If you've got motorcycles or small cars, these are the way to go, these things. $15, do you believe that? Anyway, there's no metal thing on there, and she's stuck too. So looking down there between the piston and the ball, there's, you know, moderate clearance, just like a new one, and it looks like it's got virtually no wear. And that's on a 200,000 kilometre engine that I don't think's been maintained properly at all. So, you know, I would suggest that you look after it, you'll get another 200,000 or 300,000 out of it. It's perfect. Intake valves, as I expected, very clean. Not worried about those. I knew it wouldn't be a problem. I'll take out number 1 and 4. I'll leave these ones because I don't want to take the manifold off. And I don't see, if I thought there was an issue, I would absolutely do it. But I don't think there is. So, yeah, I'll just leave those ones, I think. And can you see it? I mean, that's as good as it gets. And that's been 2 seconds on some dirty Scotch brine. And even with the valve dry, you know, I mean, it's beautiful. Even with it dry, if I can find the guide from the other side without looking, it's free as a bird. So, yeah, I think they're going to be alright. That's pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, nothing wrong with those guys. Well, I can't do much more on these. I'll wait till I've just started scraping off bits of gasket. I'll wait till I get the head bolts. The more you dig, the more you find. Remember that saying? Right, so I've come to do the pads, and it turns out the disc is stuffed as well. There's a lip, and a little bit of a lip there. The minimum thickness, I can't remember what it was, I measured it with a mic. We're 1/4 millimetre off undersize. So that's 5 thousandths per side. Basically 10 thousandths, 1/4 mil, 5 thou per side. They're stuffed. So, bought some new discs. Came with the wrong pads, but the bearings look like they're losing their case hardening. So, look at that race. It's kind of dark in the centre. So that means new bearings, new seals, and that's not the kicker. That is, the pads were difficult to move back. So this caliper should be rebuilt because it was very stiff to move the disc. So I went looking for replacement pistons and this sort of stuff, and it turns out a pair of aftermarket calipers, brand new, was $180. So I've ordered those too. So it's not just a brake overhaul, it's a complete brake replacement on the front. So I'll dig out and I had to buy a tool to get those, they hold the hub on, what are they, those Allen head, I think it's 12 mil or something like that. So I'm going to dig these out, punch the seals, and replace them. Normally with these, one a Falcon, these are recessed in, so you have to punch the old one out, cut a slot with an angle grinder, then put the new outer on and use that as a drift. Where with this one I can just go flush. So punching that out shouldn't be a big deal. Righto. Okie dokie. And you can see how dirty the grease is. I just want to make sure they're the right seal. Bearings and seals are normally quite cheap. These still wound up being $100. Thereabouts. That all looks good. Okay. And this is what happens when you don't do your 40,000 services. The grease either goes dry or liquefies, and you wind up with damage to the case hardening. So that's all good. We're going to put new ones in and check everything out. I've checked the outer bearings, they're fine. The fit of them, and we'll punch those shells out. I'm not going to do it on here because I don't want to upset any of that. I'm just going to clean this up with a dirty old rag, and then I'll use a cleaner when I've got all this muck out. And I've got to actually put the calipers and old pads in on the new disc just to move the car around. I only ordered the new calipers this morning, so they won't get here for probably a week or so. But I need to try and cut that EJ up and get rid of it. That's my priority. I want space, and I've also got to get stuff ready for another big project as well. Cool. Okay. Now, how difficult are these going to be to get out? Just a minute, where are my punches? Excuse me. Is there a recess? If they liked mechanics, they would put a recess in here, but they didn't. Rotten sods. I might go for this one first, looks easier. Where's my hammer? Hammer! Come here, where are you? Where's my bloody hammer? Oh, there it is. Might have to put a slot in this one because the whoa, there it is. Hear the noise change. There we go. Because when we go to put the other one in, oh no, that should be alright. I probably won't even need to. But doesn't matter. These have never been done. I'd wager these are the original ones. That's not actually all that bad. It's certainly you could get away with that. But you know, it's only a matter of time when you're turning the wheel and putting load on this side, you'd sort of hear it rumbling away. Anyway, gonna get this inner race out and we're good. Sweet. I'm watching, I'm knocking this in and I'm watching these going dut, 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 and I'm sort of worried they're going to go dut, 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 and change which bearing is being used on them. That's the new one, idiot. What am I doing? That goes there. Old one's there. Sweet. Okay. These blokes go over here. Where's the other friggin' bearing? Oh. I'm going to pack them, stick them back on the car. We'll put the disc on. I'm just going to start. We don't chip them. I thought this was recording and it wasn't. I've never used this grease, so I'm probably repeating myself. And I'm just pushing it in so it comes out the top there. I was an idiot because I should have accepted Penrite sponsorship. They offered it to me. Because since that, I didn't answer the email. Since that, I reckon I've spent about $1,000 in oil. But sometimes product placement, so that battery charger, it's going to be a battery charger that I'm going to review. Electronic thing, had an app that went with your phone and all this stuff. And I had a look at it, started using it, found it a little bit confusing. And I emailed them back and said, look, I'm actually finding it confusing and I don't want to give you a bum review if it's my fault. So give me your address and I'll send it back to you. And she said, no, it's all good. You can keep it. So I've not used it. I'll give it to Kevin, Susie's fella, because he wanted it. And I won't worry about it. I'm not going to do any product placement. I just don't want to. This is ridiculous doing this here. Bit of Prepsol, just to clean the anti-corrosive waxy stuff off here, because we want the brakes to work. Give that another hit, I think. These were cheap. These were with pads, like $140, $135 or something. I've also got a blade, and I've gone around here just to make sure it's all level and take off any sort of debris. There's a bit of surface rust and that sort of thing in there, but that will stop it from the brakes from shimmying, if you know what I mean. You want them to be dead flat in there. That goes from the outside, from this side, right there. when you don't stick your finger in the grease. Should be something like that. And I'm going to be wiping the discs again because I've stuck my greasy prints all over them. That should come home all the way. Need the tone change. And we'll just rotate it a bit, and we've got to clean these up, put a bit of Loctite on, and bolt them up, and we're good. Right, these are different. On a Ford and a Holden, you've got a nut that goes over here, washer, then a nut, then you preload it. I always use or tighten it up with a what do you call it? A shifter, rotate a couple of times, back it off. You know, an eighth of a turn or whatever. These are different. Oh, and then once you've done that, you've got this castellated thing that goes on. You line it up so that the hole in the stub axle, you can put the split pin in. But these are different. These have got a locking nut with a sort of an Allen head or a hex head screw that you tighten it with. So I'd probably leave it about there and just check for, you know. That's what I'm going to do for now. I'll put the other caliper back on with the old pads and everything, just do the other side so I can move the car around, and we're good. It is new wheel bearings and what do you call it? Disc rotor. That piston on this side is so bloody seized, and it was like this when I took the thing out too. It's very troublesome to try and rotate. So for moving the car around the drive, it's fine. When we get the new calipers, I've got the pads that came with these discs and they're too small for these calipers. They're a little bit too narrow. So I'll see what the replacement calipers are like to fit that grade. If they don't, I'll reorder them. The other thing is, it'll need all the fluid washing out because it's all muddy, just from basic neglect. So we'll pump all that out. It's not a bad idea when you get them like this, because that master could be a bit sus as well. Certainly with an old master, if you're replacing the fluid, you're not pushing the pedal all the way to the floor, then up, then all the way down. When you're bleeding, you're just going halfway, gently, just so you're not running the seal over new territory. But that fluid's pretty knackered. So once we get the new bits and pieces, we'll put all that in and flush the brakes and we're good. Oh well, back on this. I'm only going to try and take the tank out today because I've got to, well, it's late afternoon, I've got to do the lawns and all this sort of stuff. Some moron at Holden decided that these should be screwed on from underneath. And there's a lip underneath, so they're all hung. They're not actually sitting in the hole, they're sort of hung from the bottom. There is one screw somewhere there. Bought a couple of these. They're probably rubbish quality. Okay. I should probably bolt it first. No, got no hope of getting that out. I think that's a drill 3. I got these out with them. Not as bad as I thought actually. But it's just crazy that you take these out from underneath. There we go. And it's sort of hung up on this pillar. Is it hung up on this? Ah, sneaky. There we go. It's got an O-ring there, I didn't even know that. Crazy. But this looks to be in really fantastic nick, like inside it. I took the centre out. It smells kind of petrol-y. But I just didn't want to, you know, cut things up in case it just went boom, you know. Sneaky. Hold it and full of surprises. That's the locking cap. I had to break it to get it off. You can tell I've never pulled one of these apart. This is in really good nick, this stuff. You can see I started drilling out spot welds. I'm going to buy one of these. These are great. You get screws that are difficult to get out. Oh, that one wasn't, but it uses a rattleman type arrangement to undo them. It's fantastic. Right, got that trim off. That's a nice one though, it'll polish up nicely. The other thing is, you can sort of get to it, Charlie something, by drilling down through from the other side, from here, and just knocking it off with a screwdriver or a chisel or something. Because the screw is well and truly rusted. I might also take these clips, because clips tend to be quite expensive, so I think they're just pop riveted in. I'll just drill those out. That one's actually stuffed. Maybe it's not worth it. That's a good one. It's worth taking bits and pieces off. But that means now, without the fuel tank and that stainless trim, I can just cut to my heart's content. And I've just got to work out how I'm going to do it. So I was all set to cut this off today. This rear corner. Got a problem. The floor in mine is better to a point, but the thing that is better on this is this rear panel here. So it runs all the way along. Whoopsie. And particularly here, it's straight. I don't think this has ever been in an accident at the back. But that's much, much better than mine. Whereas my floor and sort of round surrounding areas is better. So, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Because originally I was just going to cut this down here, cut it across there, per instructions of course, through here, and through the bottom and just take the whole thing off. I'm almost tempted to take the whole back off it. I'm just not sure. Just a sec. Looking at this one, this is actually pretty good across here. And the boot channel's lovely on it. It's excellent. Bit of exposed metal there, so we know exactly what's behind here. I'm not even worried too much about that. What I was worried about was all this bog. All around the back. And it's on the other side as well. There's quite a bit of filler across the other side as well. And that's why I bought the other one. Because I thought, well, rear quarters look better. But this one is all sort of buckled in here. And something's grabbed that and pulled it back, or pushed it in or something. It's just not as straight across the back here. So, I'm wondering if, I'm just not sure. I'm not really sure how to attack it. Because that's a bit of a mess. And no doubt that is too. I can't put my hand behind here. Yeah, that's a mess behind there. It's not too bad around here, but it's been hit in the back. The fuel tank flange is lovely. The chassis rail's lovely. Just a few holes and bits and pieces through the boot there. You can see. Oh no, this is a bit of junk. It's not that bad actually. I just patched that. I wasn't going to change the boot pan anyway, but I was going to cut the one out of there because I thought it might look a bit better. But this is actually a better car by a long shot. I'm just wondering if I should take this as well, or where to cut the other one. I'm just not sure. Anyway, I've got a cup of tea and a clock for an XC. I've got it hooked up to a battery. This is Neil McClymont. It's a good friend of mine. I've known him since 1979. We were in secondary school in year 7 at Yarra Valley. We used to play soccer together. Neil remembers the story where some young hoon had was it an HD or an HR? And an EH. One had a cut-off exhaust and he would turn around the streets while we were trying to play. Right, this is Neil's clock and he picked it up. He's got a 6-cylinder. I think one of his kids bought a 6-cylinder XC. It's like a one-owner car, church on Sundays type thing. Very, very clean, beautiful original car. And it didn't have a clock and he wanted a clock. So he's found this. This is a nice old clock. He wants me to do it up a little bit. It's going milky. So it's good now, but it's only a matter of time before that'll all be pretty milky. So I've got some needle paint and a new lens. And so I've had it hooked up to this battery for a couple of hours. It seems to be keeping pretty good time. Well, in honesty, I didn't check the time. I just put it on at 4 o'clock and now it says, what does it say, 20 past 7. So it's been going for a few hours. One thing I did notice is those lights there weren't doing much. think I've got some spare globes, I'm not sure. That works. Sweet. And where's the index for that? That goes that way, doesn't it? And this one here. Come on, you. Go. The globes look quite fresh in them. You don't want to put this thing in front, you've got to take it out again. Right, that isn't doing much. A lot of the time it's just the way the wires are bent. Yeah, that's stuffed. Alright. Light, cool. Now we're good. Right, so I think what we can do now is pull this apart, or at least I'm going to take these off. Now, this was particularly hard to find. One's it's got a nice clock, but two, everyone seems to cut into these side bits for faders and antennas and all sorts of stuff, and we're not going to do that. So sometimes with this old Ford plastic, because it does get very brittle, you've just got to be really careful when you undo these, because if the, not so much with screws like this, but some of the other screws, they have a tendency, yeah, they're tiny, they have a tendency to sort of hang onto the plastic. So that can just be loosened off. And the bottom one taken out. And that will release it. And we'll take that out. Forget, just take it out. Now on the front of the clock, there's a couple of things. There's a bezel which goes around the clock, like that, and then of course you got the outer part. That's the location for the factory fader and antenna switch. These go like that, I think. These go like that, and that sits over. So it's quite a, it's a funky setup really, but that's what gives it its appearance. Right, so we have to have a good look at this. There is a crack. Damn. Here, but the other posts, or areas where the screw look pretty good. So that'll separate the clock from the lens face. There's a spring-loaded adjuster in there for doing adjustment on the hands, right? The new lens has that adjuster step sort of built into it. And if I remember correctly, I had a bit of trouble when I did mine on my XC getting the clear plastic off the acrylic. It's just a piece of acrylic, that's all it is. But you need to go the right way because that adjuster is on an angle. Now, let's have a look at this. We'll take a screw out. So I've got hay fever, a little self-tapping type screw. I'm surprised they've cut the connector off, that was dumb. So I can't remember what the connector looks like on these. But the wiring, that's an earth strap, that's also got just a common flat screw. So it's not going to be difficult for them to connect it, I wouldn't think. Here's this piece here, look. That's just broken off. That corner bit. So I'll try and clear that on now. With stuff like this, and the same with lens. Lens is actually glued on, but it's not hard to get off. I always push them off from the inside. But super glue, I wouldn't touch super glue because super glue leaves a white residue. It seems to be that way if it gets a bit of heat into it. It's like the forensic people use it. They put it in a cabinet and heat it up and everything, and it creates a it finds fingerprints. Here are the hands. That face is clean. There is a rusty spot there, which just came off. So we just need to make sure we keep that all good. The lens should push off, but we've got to be really careful. We might have to use a razor blade. This is stuck better than mine, but you can see here I've just lifted it and I can get a blade in there and just gingerly, it's glued in the corners, I think, and this adhesive's a hell of a lot better than the stuff I had in mine. There we go. Now that plastic actually looks pretty good, but it's already white, or getting white, and you can't get it off. That's the source of the rust on the face, that little bit there. Now that faces down on an angle, and we'll just take this, they've just used food wrap on this. This is a bit of Glad wrap by the look of it. But you've got to get it off and then handle it really gently, because I don't want to mark this up. They're so clear that it's quite easy to stuff them up. And they've sold these by the billion, I reckon, for all the XA and XB people, XC people. They're the same as far as I know. I had hell's no trouble getting it off mine though, but this is actually looking pretty good. I should have got my daughter to do that. She loves picking things off. That's a girl thing. Now, beautiful, isn't it? That is going to go that way, I think. Now, which is the front? Goes that way. So that adjuster is going to sit in like that. So if I go like that, I'm going to try and pull that knob off. And I'm having trouble. Might be a job for 2 teaspoons. We'll go and get some and we'll have a look. There's a couple of things with this. I'm just going to put a bit of t-shirt over it while we use our spoons, because if that knob comes off, we're never going to see it again. There's also that spring behind, and those springs, is that focusing? Are really easy to wreck. I'm just going to do that with the teaspoons. If you see what I'm trying to do, and then pull up, and the t-shirt's just there to catch it. And we successfully broke the lens. That doesn't matter. Maybe I can do it from the other side. Maybe it would be easier from here. Maybe it just wouldn't. She don't want to come. I'm paranoid about breaking that knob. This way you get speedo needles, and in the motorbike videos I was sort of using the spoons. Oh, damn it, we'll just take it out as one, eh? That lens is very brittle. I think the other thing we're going to do, what might be necessary, is to get some Scotch-Brite, take all that surface rust off that, and just give it a quick squirt with some clear, just so it doesn't drop deposits all over the clock face again. I'm going to go and have a go at getting that off. Right, they're all rusty. There's the spring and the knob. Right, so I'm going to put that there. I need to clean this. I don't think we can put it in with it like that. It's just going to be too crusty. Right, that little adjusting post, just threw a bit of black on it. It's got more, it's hardier, more longevity than clear. And I couldn't find it clear. Alright. Oops. So to mask this face off, I'm just going to put a little notch in here. And slide that through like that. But we want to make sure we can get it off quickly. So I'm going to fold the edges of the tape up, and that way we can just undo it without too much duress to the clock. Just like that. So just grab it and pull it off. It's a bit redder than the original stuff, but the original stuff was quite faded. Right, so I'm sorry, I've sort of cut to the finished article. There it is there. I wasn't happy with the colour of the needle. Here I ended up using a few different colours to come up with a needle colour that I was happy with that matched what was in my XC. Right, so that's done. That can go. I've sent Harvey's chute off. Head gasket and bolts for the starlet, so that can all go back together. And by the end of the next video that'll be done. New calipers have arrived for the Merc. Still haven't got the pads. So as soon as that comes, that can go together too. And some little hubcaps rocked up, just to make this thing look a bit nicer than what it did. Interestingly, the underside of the Z, C or D ones that came off are dated. They might have been accessory ones, 6th of January, is it? 1970. That would make it ZC, wouldn't it? Anyway, whatever the case, hope you've enjoyed this, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.